Today I'd like to do a walkthrough on the programming features of the Carman I-700 and I-300 on the Astra Z18 ECU replacement feature. Now, important thing to note is the service programming system functionality should only be used to flash the ECU on the right hand side, which is the later new style ECUs. The service programming system should never be used to reflash the original software inside the old style ECUs, which have the heat sink fins on top of them. All other functionalities, including CAN programming, variant CAN programming, reset ECU, pin code reading, are available for both style ECUs. So the service programming system functionality is only to be used on the new style ECUs. So the first thing you're going to need is the pin code in the process of replacing the ECU. You're going to need this to reprogram the new engine ECU to the immobilizer, and first of all you need to get this out of the older ECU before you remove it from the vehicle. This function is also great for key code programming, where if the customer's lost his keys, you simply grab yourself a chip, a transponder chip, pull the pin code out of the vehicle and program it. Here we're going into the programming side of the engine ECU. You can see 1 on the list, service programming system for reflashing, 2 is pin code, 3 is reset the ECU, 4 is program variant coding, 5 program your CAN, 6 reset idle speed, 7 relearn values, and 8 is display the immobilizer system. So we've selected 2, press enter, ignition on, leave the ignition on. This will take roughly about 3 minutes because it needs to pull the whole file out of the ECU and run it through an algorithm in order to crack the code for you. Now 3 minutes has passed, and as you can see it's come up with pin code 9087 with the VIN number. Press enter to continue. Make sure that you write these numbers down on the job card and keep these because you'll need these later on during the programming. So next thing to do is basically switch off the ignition, change your ECU over, install the new ECU, and come back to the service programming system once you've completed. Okay, so you've installed the new ECU, got the ignition on. The first thing you got to notice is the check engine warning light's going to be flashing rapidly to verify that you've lost communication between the immobilizer and the engine ECU, which is fair enough because your ECU has no software in it at the moment. So we're going to go to service programming systems, read the instructions, make sure that you have the ignition on and engine is off. Obviously you have a good power supply connected to the vehicle. Now this particular ECU I've used in my demonstrations many times before, so I've already got a VIN number in here, but generally that'll just come up blank if you're getting a brand new one out of the box, and it's a matter of a case of just typing in the vehicle's VIN number. You can see the data count starting to rise there. It takes roughly around 10 minutes to flash an Astra ECU. So once again, make sure you've got a good power supply connected to the battery, keeping it above 12 volts at all time. And I think we'll just jump ahead here rather than sit here watching this. Now, it's always good practice to have your auxiliary power source connected to the vehicle, because over the 10 minutes with the fans running, the last thing you need is your voltage to drop down. So we're just waiting for the checksum verification. You need to cycle the ignition off and back on. Press enter, and there we have it, programming completed. The calibration files for the operation of the engine are now installed. Now, you may notice the check engine warning light will come on straight away after cycle ignition. This is normal because up until this point the keys aren't programmed, your variant CAN programming isn't done, and your CAN programming isn't done, so the vehicle will still be logging codes, because at this point communication between the engine ECU and the other ECUs has not been established. So the first thing we'll do is go into the immobilizer, into the body menu. Enter into programming. Choose number 2, program immobilizer function. So it was the engine control module that we installed, so we take that selection. Ignition needs to be off for 10 seconds. That allows the time for the ECU to boot down. Check the trouble codes, so that all the fault codes in relation to the security not being programmed, keys not programmed, have gone. So the next thing we need to take care of is the variant CAN configuration programming. So we'll do the variant first. So in this vehicle we actually have cruise control installed. So we select our left or right buttons to change our options. It's an automatic transmission. Air conditioning. It does have ABS. It's got traction controlled. Vehicle dynamics not. And close ratio transmission. If you're not sure of these functions, you can go into the original ECU before you remove it from the car. Have a look at what the variant and CAN programming functions are set at, and just note them down. So next we'll go to our CAN configuration. So we'll tell the computer network what signals it needs to be looking for. In this case, because it's an automatic transmission, the transmission is going to need the actual throttle body position signal for the torque signal. It's also need to be sent through to the traction control, so it has an idea of what horsepower the engine's producing and torque, so it can take control over that when need to be. Other functions like vehicle speed signals coming off the ABS need to be passed on to the transmission as well. Now, just a note, whenever you are playing around with the CAN configuration or variant configuration on an Astra, you're going to have to do a reset learn values. It is pretty standard. Once you've played around with these and you've made modifications, you'll go to start the car and the car will just wind over, no faults logged. So just reset, do an all relearn, and that will take care of the situation for you. But we'll start the car up. Now, it's pretty standard in most cases with an automatic transmission that the check engine light will come back on again because there's fault codes logged in the transmission to do with communication with the engine ECU, which is quite understandable considering it was a brand new ECU with no software inside it. So we just go to the transmission and erase whatever fault codes are in there. Most likely if you did have a faulty ECU, which was the reason we're changing it, you'll also have your old fault codes in there as well, which you'll need to clear out before you give the vehicle back to the customer. And because this CAN communication system involves the ABS, we'll go to the ABS traction control and erase communication faults from there. So that's it. You can go back to the engine and just confirm you have no fault codes. No codes. So just to summarize again the programming functions. So number one is for reflashing the ECU, putting calibration files in. 2, pin code extraction. 3 is reset the ECU if we want to take it off and use it on another car. 4, program your variant configuration, whether it's ABS, traction control, etc. CAN communication for our network programming. Program idle speed if you want to alter your idle speeds. Reset learned values for any modifications done, that'll reset it to go, and your display immobilizer. Okay, so I hope this walkthrough has been insightful into the procedure of replacing the ECU in an Astra G. This is Phil on behalf of Carman Global, and take care.